Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, all our value viewers in Trinidad, Tobago, and beyond. This is Talking Point here on WESN. I know it's been a while. We had Carnival on Friday, but don't fear. Mondays to Thursdays, we'll still have Talking Point during the week. And a lot has happened since last week, Thursday. Now, with regards to the Prime Minister's press conference and some of the utterances of the Minister of National Security, and then to some extent the responses by the former Commissioner of Police himself, Double G. We'll get into all of that tomorrow for the most part. There's one aspect of one of the things the Prime Minister said at his post-cabinet briefing that I'll get into. But for the most part, some of the heavier matters we'll get into tomorrow with my co-host, Mr. Keaton Shah. However, in the meantime, I wanted to highlight something which, quite frankly, I am to some extent pleasantly surprised. It's not as though I thought it was impossible. What am I speaking about? Well, let's get straight into today's Daily Review. And many of us cynically did not expect this day, I guess you could say, not that it was going to be impossible, not that we did not hope for it to happen, but there were questions with regards to releasing the Commission of Inquiry, the information presented by Jerome Lynch, his report, which cost the nation $15 million plus, considered to some extent a bargain when compared to previous Commission of Inquiries. A bargain, but also potentially one should consider the time frame in which this more or less was delivered. 2 years later, there is a report laid in Parliament which, according to the Minister of Energy, has no reductions whatsoever, and it has more or less been quite critical of the companies involved. Now the question comes, what will come of it, particularly with regards to the divers and their families? As I've said, there are 5 primary victims in this, of course, 1 survivor, 4 deceased. The effect to their livelihood, even for the survivor, has been brought into the press, and an argument has been made, and it is one of the items in the report for compensation for the victims' families, particularly, of course, for the families of the deceased who lost their breadwinners and has had difficulties trying to make an adjustment while dealing with the psychological trauma of losing such an important loved one, such a central figure to their respective families. Now, I think part of it also, as a society, we need to look at the compensation, not just potentially to rectify a situation as much as financially possible, because you can't replace the loved one, right? At the end of the day, no amount of financial compensation could make up for that loss. But with regards to the earning power that was lost for our household in order to continue to function on a practical level, that can be addressed. And I think part of it, why I am not against it, why I more or less in general agree with it, is that it should be part of the consequences for those who failed in this situation and caused the harm. It is a precedent I actually would like to see continued or set, and this also brings up the situation for the widow with regards to the Nikwan accident that happened last year. She herself is also in similar straits and has voiced her agreement with it, and cynics might say, well, of course they would want for it because they stand to benefit, but it's not about getting more than they would have. It's about trying to get back what they should have gotten. Now, this report, this Commission of Inquiry report, puts a significant amount of the blame on Paria. It does point to several situations, several breakdowns. It names names. Specifically, with regards to some of the day-to-day leadership in Paria, does not necessarily name the members of the board. We'll get into that later. But it names names, particularly with regards to the technical lead, right, and her failure to stamp authority. That's what's reported as a quote. And the detrimental effect it had on any rescue efforts. But also, I believe, it names maintenance technician, Houston, Majada. Let me not even bother. I'm going to get that wrong. And it points out to the fact that he was not even present for a meeting with regards to planning out that day's work, of which he apparently is signed in for. That's something that those who know one of the low-level corruption practices with regards to labor and government institutions and state institutions and ministries and public service, etc., etc. That's not necessarily something that is new when you think about it. You just would not have necessarily thought that it would have happened potentially in an institution like PARIA, who, like other technical institutions like, say, Caribbean Airlines, which, state has ownership of, Tech, a public utility, things where safety is of prime importance, you wouldn't think somebody would potentially turn up missing to important meetings, and I don't know who signed him in on it, being present. The thing is, PARIA is taking the brunt of the blame. LMCS is not necessarily off the hook, despite the fact that Mr. Boudram, the lone survivor, he has an emphatic plea saying that Mr. Ali, he has lost his son, he doesn't need to be punished anymore. With regards to OSHA, one could argue both companies had failings, and both companies should be taken up on, breaches of occupational health and safety, or safety and health. And the determination of punishment could take into consideration the fact that it's not as though Mr. Ali Sr. sent other people's sons in a bad situation. His son was also included. And that could potentially, by the judge or tribunal or whoever, that could potentially, in the industrial court, they could consider that with regards to what the actual punishment would be. However, I think both PARIA and LMCS should be taken to the industrial court over OSHA breaches, right? Because we can't just turn a blind eye to what is correct and proper. However, KC Jerome Lynch, he, as part of his recommendations, is looking at PARIA to be faced with corporate manslaughter, a charge which is allowed in common law. It's not a statute on our books, but there is a case, a previous case, where a sitting judge did consider a similar case where a corporation was more or less charged with manslaughter. So with regards to our common law, in 2009 by Magistrate Nalini Singh, over the death of a 20-year-old man in a drowning incident in a corporate-owned quarry. So we have precedent for it, and one of the things that differs PARIA from LMCS, and the report points this out, is the fact that LMCS was not allowed to conduct its own rescue. PARIA controlled the site. PARIA contracted for the job. They had a duty of care for the divers, and no rescue was allowed. One of the things that I didn't necessarily notice during all of the reporting and all of the testimony is the fact that the Coast Guard members apparently enforced PARIA's decision with firearms, basically denying LMCS divers to try to attempt a rescue. And it is noted that this is in direct contradiction to PARIA stating that private divers were unwilling to go, the Coast Guard divers were unwilling to go. There were some private divers willing to go. And one of the things pointed out is not whether or not necessarily they should have gone, but no attempts to even make a determination. I think, and somebody who I believe I was critical before when speaking about this. want to get his name. I don't want to get it wrong. One of the site managers, I believe, who the report is highly critical of again, stating that, look, it seems as though he made a decision without even making any attempts to see about the situation. And then what also does not look good is the fact that the families weren't even allowed on the compound the day of the incident, apparently. The lack of response by Paria, the slow response, and then the, I guess you could say, decisive action to deny any attempt at rescue, more or less, the Commissioner of Inquiry puts the bulk of the blame at Paria's feet. And I think that corporate manslaughter at the minimum, which it's been lamented in the press in various stories, that it will more or less amount to a fine for Paria. And what could it do? Well, to some extent, if the fine is big enough, that should be somewhat of an incentive to the state to ensure that the people that they put in charge of various state entities will actually act in accordance to proper ethical guidelines. But then now comes the next question. The opposition is calling for the board to be removed. I think some of the victims' families are calling for the board to remove. Personally, let me say this. On an objective level, I am not entirely sure to what extent the board should be held culpable. On a personal level, I think, yes, the board should be removed. As well as all of the individuals with regards to the management structure of Paria who had a hand in allowing this thing to happen. The maintenance technician, the site manager, etc., etc. The operations manager, Colin Piper, as well. I think all of the individuals named in the report should have some sort of punishment in order to send a clear message. Listen, this result and the behavior that led up to it is not acceptable. Now, should they be fired? Should they be fined? Should they be criminally prosecuted? That's a whole host of questions which I don't know if I am the correct person to make that determination. But I do think, though, that on a personal level, which is very much not a professional opinion with regards to this, it's probably best if they were all removed because 4 men died. Kudos to the government for laying the report in Parliament, for not redacting anything from the report. But now the question remains, what will happen to the people culpable? To what extent will the board be held culpable? Because they have to some extent oversight, and they were part, not necessarily the biggest part, but they were a small part of the failure to communicate during the crisis. They didn't necessarily show anything with regards to any sort of leadership from their position, so why are they there? Are they there only to oversee an entity when things are going good, but they can't do anything when things are going bad? Because at the end of the day, if punishment is not handed out as heavily as possible, then what confidence do we have that this will not happen again? And that is my fear. It's one thing if you want to have some levels of corruption and political appointment, nepotism, whatever, that will, okay, money is skimmed or what have you. That's bad enough. And we have the Integrity Commissions after, and various other bodies to go after that. But this is something that's within the public sphere and is potentially a quite egregious and blatant disregard for health and safety. One of the things is, the KC lamented the fact that it doesn't seem that there are standards with regards to this site of job and this site of work that could be enforced and guides companies on what certifications and qualifications are needed in order for this type of work to be allowed in the first place. It's been pointed out by some that LMCS themselves did not have the correct qualifications to do this type of work, but they were allowed to do so by Paria, which is part of the reason why Paria is not off the hook on this, and which is why I think both companies need to go and face the industrial court. But corporate manslaughter charges on Paria, I think, are probably quite appropriate for the institution to face a penalty, for the state to have to pay a penalty, and then the question is now, what will happen with the remaining individuals, particularly those people within the management positions of PARIA. And it seems as though that is up to the DPP's office. The ball is in his court. Hopefully we will get a reasonable explanation. Whatever the results are, it's about the explanation as why certain decisions, whatever decisions that will be made, are made. So we have to leave it there. I want to move on quick to some of the other stories. There is an unfortunate situation with regards to the Integrity Commission. And it is pointed to, I think it was the latest report, the 36th annual report, which was laid in Parliament last Friday. I believe it was under the chairmanship of the outgoing chairman, the former chairman, Professor Rajendra Ramlogan. And he is pointing to a lot of the issues with regards to trying to do the work in the Office of the Integrity Commission. One of the things, of course, which is reported is the fact that the DPP's office is not necessarily cooperating, I guess you could say, and the Integrity Commission, the report titled A Journey of Pain and Promise, he's pointing to the fact that the initial attempts seemed quite painful. It was difficult to get people to comply. The Integrity Commission had to take those who did not comply into civil court proceedings, and then they were able to improve the rate of compliance by public officials. But there's a lot of criticisms with regards to the overall situation, with regards to the responses from the Office of the DPP, which is unfortunate. It could be because the Office of the DPP is also under-resourced. And there were several recommendations, one of which was pointing to the fact that I believe in Jamaica, there is a separate office with regards to prosecuting corruption cases, which potentially we may or may not need, but then that still goes back down to resource allocation. And hopefully it wouldn't mean if a decision like that was taken on that resources will be diverted as opposed to added on. And there were other recommendations. One, to exclude judges and magistrates. I don't necessarily know how good that would be. But also to include officials in all statutory bodies and state enterprises, including those bodies in which the state has a controlling interest. Now, I'm not too sure with regards to the last part if that's going to fly. But if political appointees can be included in the Act, in the Integrity in Public Life Act. Now, maybe there's legal reasons why it won't necessarily work out, and maybe there'll be levels to this where some, like majority ownership, should not be included if it's not necessarily a state entity or a state special purpose company. But others, like state-owned public utilities, state-owned companies like PARIA, maybe they should be included into this. Because at the end of the day, the state-appointed board of PARIA, I think, at the very least, somebody should look into exactly what part they had to play in PARIA. And there are probably other situations as well. And these are political appointees. And to some extent, there's a duty towards the people of the state. This is not a for-profit private venture, which is not answerable to the common citizen. So we'll see how far that goes. Moving on quickly, I find it interesting. The Prime Minister is looking to defend the Commissioner of Police, saying it's not helping crime, putting all the blame on the Commissioner of Police. The Commissioner is who we have, the Prime Minister is basically saying, and the current Commissioner is required to run the police service. I get that. I get that. Except by defining the Commissioner of Police, look at exactly what the Prime Minister is basically saying. This is who we have and we need to support her. We're not talking about an entry-level job and we need someone to fill the position for a few months, until, a hotel receptionist until the August vacation passes, or we need someone we need tellers in the bank because it's month end and we have to process a lot of transactions, and a lot of people will be coming to the bank to maybe withdraw cash or deposit checks or whatever. We're talking about a high-end job which directly impacts something that affects, on a very real level, the lives of citizens every day. And now the question is the job satisfactory or not? This is not the kind of job where we could have someone just, fill in. We just need a body there to do some functionary work, to fill out some paperwork, to make sure that the processes keep moving. This is more than that. So I'm kind of stunned that the Prime Minister took this approach at a commissioner who is seemingly getting more and more unpopular as the months go by and as the murder rate continues at the level that it is. And the detection rate continues, more importantly, at the level of it is. So, I get it. You don't necessarily want to be unfair. The problem is, we're not talking about a 9-to-5 job, where if it's not done, maybe we have disgruntled customers, maybe we lose some money. We're not even talking about a big job where big contractual arrangements are on the line. We're talking about a job that can mean the difference between the life and deaths of citizens. She's been there for a year, and at the end of the day, that level of responsibility should come with accountability. And if you want us to not blame the commissioner, we need something more than just, well, she's in the job, and we shouldn't blame her for the results upon which her branch, her service, is primarily responsible for in the national security apparatus. Why not? And then by extension, the blame goes on to the people that put her there. Maybe that's why there's a defense, because her appointment at the end of the day came down to the government's decision. Not that I necessarily want to see anymore the current politician who formerly held that post, but we'll get into that tomorrow. That's my opinion. Next story, quick. One of the things I didn't speak about, but it came out, I believe, from last week, is that Tobago Carnival, there were calls for Tobago to concentrate more on October and to have less of their festivities in the primary carnival period alongside Trinidad Carnival. And I think in general it's a good idea. What's the point of having two parades of the bands when October Carnival is not necessarily outside of the carnival season? We take a break for Christmas. It's not as though it actually only starts after Christmas. Let's be real. Fetes, band launches, those things are happening, earlier, much earlier than October. So Tobago making this decision, I think, and allowing Tobago to be an escape for Trinidadians who might want to get out of the country during Carnival. Maybe it's not your thing. And there were years where the tourism market, the domestic tourism market in Tobago, that's who the majority of their customers were. That was the market was. And it wasn't doing bad for all intents and purposes. Of course, some of the locals might want certain festivities on the island, and that's fine as well. But giving more focus to the initiative of October Carnival, we have it. Let's try to concentrate on that. I agree with it. It makes sense also just on a product placement strategy level. But last story that we'll go into, last story we'll go into today. Religious bodies are advising, and this is coming with regards to the schools under their purview, as well as, I believe, attendance to various faith services for their respective bodies, the members of the IRO. They're advising to adopt public health protocols. Now, it's not necessarily that they're saying that these things have to be adopted. And the things like social distancing right now, because of the disruption to various, classrooms, faith services, it's not that easy. Things are not things have not reached the level of that it were in the past, so they don't necessarily want to institute everything. But it's up to individuals to wear masks. They're advising people to watch, with regards to trying to keep your hands washed or sanitized when interacting. And these things are reasonable. Part of the concern is of course, Carnival, which is coming within about a month. And the fact that with the increase of people and the increased social proximity of a lot of people throughout the various festivities, we could see further spikes. It's a fair concern, but again, nothing is set in stone. They are not saying that these measures are hard in place. It's more of a recommendation or advice. And as I said before, I think people do need to actively consider what it is that they're going to do, what it is that they're not going to do. Don't just be passive and hope for the best, but consider it. But as the minister said, now is not the time to panic. It's not that bad yet. We just have to be concerned for those in society potentially who could still be at risk. People with NCDs, the elderly, there are other respiratory illnesses, not just COVID-19. So it's not a COVID-19 situation. Let's just remember that. Despite the fact that, yes, it's a little alarming with people dying from COVID still at the end of 2023 into 2024. But unfortunately, that is just the nature of this. Now, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll welcome our guests. We'll be speaking about, I guess you could say, the undermining of values in our society. Stay tuned to Talking Point on WSN. Show Michael Small here to speak to you. Guests coming in, we'll be right back.
Don't stop, anchor down in the ocean, watching you sailing by.
This is EA Urfanals and I will be there live. QRC 2024, we're gonna give you more back by live band or the link up. Everybody and them will fight. We don't want no bad vibes in the mask. QRC, pick a side, coronation, pick a side, link up.
You make me feel.
Like many others trying to save on Carnival, Gabby thought she should go for 50% off makeup.
What about the other side? Well, Daisy 50% off offer. So you know.
No makeup artist we don't know. What we do know is the savviest savings for Carnival are at KFC. Get a Jab Jab box, 1-piece chicken, 1 regular fries, and a biscuit for only $25.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing nowadays.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the things with regards to our current situation that I've been lamenting on is the fact that I believe that there are a lot of issues. I believe that there are a lot of issues with regards to that bring up the current situation of crime in the country. A lot of contributing factors where we have, I guess we could say, a hard discussion that we need to start, or maybe in some cases continue, with regards to how are we going to solve it. And it needs to be identifying, and it might be a difficult discussion to have if we want to look at the hard, honest truth. Some of it we might actually know already, some of it we might not necessarily want to admit amongst ourselves. But to have this conversation with me, I am welcoming two pastors today, Pastor Carl Mead and Pastor Carlton Armstrong. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on Talking Point, because I don't know if it's a chicken and egg scenario, if the values were undermined first and then we see the current situation that we have, or if the current situation that we have with crime and corruption helped to undermine our values. But I think at the end of the day, we're seeing these symptoms of violence, symptoms of conflict, not all necessarily physical, right? And it's disrupting our society in ways I don't think our forebearers might have anticipated when we think about yesterday and we think about the old time days. Yes, it wasn't necessarily all roses back then, but what we have now, arguably, is shocking, I think, to anybody from that time period, or even those of us still here now.
Well,
okay. To put it this way, it doesn't make sense if the problem is a water leak, you don't just keep mopping. It's about going to find where the leak is coming from. So you lock off the pipes, you don't have to mop. I think there has been a breakdown with respect to the values that has brought us to where we are now. And we have to seriously address the reality of what we are dealing with. I have a concern whether we are really serious about addressing the problem. Yeah, I have a serious issue about that.
No, continue.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder, are we serious about addressing the problem? I think we love the mopping up, but what is needed is to go lock off the tap or find where the leak is, end of story.
When you say that, a lot of the discussion is more about the mopping up.
Yes.
Let's use this law to arrest them.
Yeah.
Let's use this law to punish them.
Yeah. Because you see, if you're dealing with a particular fruit, I remember for my parents, we had a kind of semi-paved yard. And my father's concern was go pull out the grass. So we just burst the head of the grass, but below the earth was the bulb, they call it. And so give it a week or two again, grass would grow up again. So you have to get to the roots of the problem if you really want to address the problem.
Well, again, thank you for being on the program.
Well, thank you, Pastor Meade, for volunteering.
I thank God for just having my good friend with me here. Again, to crime, right? I am from the old school with crime. I am from the Randolph Boroughs side. In those times, crime was under control. Because in those times, you have to know when Randolph Boroughs are wrong. You know you have to either put your guns down or either park up. And these times need to come back, because there will always be crime. Since I born, there is crime. But to curb crime right now, we need proper administration how to handle crime, because crime is something you cannot remove crime. You have to know how to curb crime. And what I have understand with the society is proper governance. Selfishness have to really remove from the politicians and so on, and they have to start to care about the needs of the people. And that's why, and one of the things I see in my 40 years since I am around the holistic part of God's eye, I see that the poor class is the one that really more going after the crime, because by poverty is so rampant and lack of education, and it all starts from the homes, from the parenting. A lot of these young boys go up without proper fathers, and they never had the home value. I was fortunate to grow up with a mother and father separate, but I had the home value because I understand that I need it. So we need to go back, is stem from the home.
And I think, Pastor Armstrong, you have similar views with regards to breakdowns in family life and the home and just development. So I would ask either one of you or both of you, is it that those deficiencies are worse now that in the past we didn't necessarily have so many problems with regards to the home? Because a lot of people, the old saying that, it takes a village, but it seems as though now we don't have the village, we don't have the guidance of mentors, and even the basic home life is more unstable than it was, even if there were issues in the past.
It has been amplified now. I say to folks all the time, the crimes that are being committed, it's not being done by aliens. It's by our sons and our daughters. And by the way, as we go on, crime is not just murder. We highlighted murder, but crime is across the board now. Yes. It's serious. Almost every institution that was positioned to set order has been infiltrated. Yes, because again, it's humans you have there. To start with, if I go back from a whole spiritual perspective, we were created in the image and likeness of God. Then the question is, how did we get to where we are now? It's a serious thought to consider. We were made in the image and likeness of God. God is not violent. We have, all of us human beings, we have excellent creative abilities. We have potentials for great success. Look around us. It was man who built the computer system, man who built planes, and man who, again, going all to the moon and that kind of stuff. We have the potential to excel, to do great things. But we just choose to take on the lower nature and allow ourselves to become instruments in the hand of the enemy.
Pastor Meade, would you say that the potential that we have is to some extent being snuffed out by, because you said the lack of care for the poorer socioeconomic classes, because there are times when you get the achievers, not just from the upper brackets of society, you get the achievers of people who learn hard work, from the lower classes, they face the hard lessons in life, and that forges sometimes the sharpest swords that will, pave the way, or the sharpest plows, I guess you could say, that will pave the way for, society in the future.
Well, one of the ills I have seen that causes crime to be rampant is the internet. The digital technology has become so liberated now. It has everything online. And online information can be used for good or bad. But the media system is so polluted right now with all kind of violent thing. It is transferring spirit to our young people because everybody have cell phones, everybody have data, everybody could go online and they could go in and see everything. And that is what caused the rapid growth and the increase in crime. Because when everything is being portrayed online and it becomes accessible, then these young boys now watching them and they're now pitting themselves right now and look at them, make themselves legend of what they see on the internet. And there's something, I believe, right, we need a divine intervention to really help our young people because the media system, digital technology right now has been rampant and the things that happen online right now and the parent has now supported their children with the cell phone and the data and they're going there unsupervised.
Well, because one of the things that's coming up more and more is some parents are publicly stating, listen, in various stories, in various mediums that I don't let my children of a certain age have a device. We're going to hold off on that. We're going to limit the exposure. Is it that potentially some of it is, they have access, like you said. It could be used for good or ill, all the information of the internet. But the lack of guidance, the lack of supervision, the lack of the village, all of a sudden it was no longer a village raising children. It is random individuals of the internet community who they're just putting stuff out there, a lot of them, for better or worse. Would you say the lack of guidance is exacerbating or compounding that?
You can't watch a child 24 hours. Right. And influence, again, to the school becomes a nest. Because when my child who grew up home good in my house with my values, go to a school and being emerged with children who parents have not overseen them, they influence my children to do likewise. And it's like a wildfire. The school is a nest. And if the teachers and them in the school does not bring the proper information to curb the children thinking, my child can be offended, could be affected by the school system. The school is a nest, and because children go to school right now and the teachers not being available to influence them again. In my school days, when I go wrong, I get 6 strokes. My teacher pull me and give me 6 strokes. And when I go, I couldn't tell my mother, if I tell my mother, I get 6 more. You understand what I'm saying? These values are no longer existent in the school system. And we're trying to find things, but the school system should help the homes. Because when your good child go to a school, and the school children now have once are ranking young children right now, cussing, smoking in school, your good child is being influenced by that system. So now it become growing. We have a real problem in our country, in the nation, and COVID-19 has brought the liberation now that where everyone has become an independent thinker and making their own choice and decision. And I believe the only way right now is God. God has to step in, We need the churches, all religious facilities to really understand this is like a runaway train.
Well, so to add to that, Pastor Armstrong, because Pastor Mead is pointing to, we started off with the homes and we look into the schools. And schools, like the internet, it could be used for good or ill. It seems as though the purpose of a school and their role to play with guidance, and of course their role to play with education, is also potentially undermined. I point to the education system being a problem, right? And it's just, these are two basic things that have wide-reaching consequences. There might be more than that, of course, the communities, the extension of the home that children live in. And now, with regards to the religious institutions, Pastor Mead is pointing to the fact that we need a divine intervention. Now, our spiritual and religious leaders, is enough being done to try to help guide, because as parents are guides and teachers to their kids, I guess one could say is a faith could be a guide and teacher to communities, and is enough guidance being either done from that avenue, or maybe it's not sought out by society anymore as we become independent thinkers, but we don't necessarily all, make the same decisions and for better or worse. Because I do wonder if to some extent part of our value loss is the fact that we're kind of taking it for granted what faith could provide, no matter what we believe in.
Yeah. This whole breakdown is so broad spectrum in the fact that we really need, I'm agreeing with Pastor Media, we really need to get back into a relationship with God, not just a church, but into a relationship with God. In the gospel, Matthew 19, Jesus made it clear, suffer the little children to come unto me. It's important to remember we are in the image likeness of God, we are soul, body, and spirit. And if the spirit man is not developed, then you're leaving just the mind and the soul, the spirit and the soul. The body and the soul to be influenced. And in order for a balanced human life, the three components has to be properly developed. Again, the breakdown starts from home. In fact, like I said before, all the institutions that were designed to properly develop a child. I've been saying recently, not because a Venezuelan is in Trinidad, that means they have the ability to speak English.
Right.
You have to be able to be taught so that you could relate to the community that you're now living in. And so with a child, the first exposure of authority for that child is from the parents.
Right.
But when mother and father is cussing down the place, then again, in the child's mind,
it's legal.
It's normal. It's normal. Yeah. I saw on Facebook some time ago some child calling home to her mother and cussing and telling mother, you better come in school here and all the expletives. A child? No, something is wrong. If you could call to your mother and talk using obscene, then I tell you the breakdown starts from home. Like I said, the first exposure to authority for a child is parents. And if that has broken down, trust me, school cannot even tame that.
Yeah.
So there's a role for the parents, and we do not want to admit it, but fathers need to step up. I know men don't want to hear that, but fathers need to step up. That's the reality. There's a role for the father to play. There's a deposit that the father could make that the mother could never give. But we have become so selfish and self-centered. It's all about me. And so it's just my life, and the child is not considered. The reason why God allowed a child to be birthed to a mother and a father, because he knew the responsibility cannot be shared by one person. One of the situations we've had, and could I take us back a little bit? You see the years of the barrel children, where everybody ran for survival, and everybody went abroad and just sent a barrel every month. So the child got the best sneakers, brand names, and they thought that was enough. Could it be that that is the generation that we are dealing with right now? Because, again, mother wasn't there. In some cases, not even the father was there. So we left the child with the grandmother. We went in the United States to work, and so we send down a barrel every month. What did the child want? Well, a laptop, we send it. Oh, you want a brand name sneakers, we send it. And we thought that was enough. Children need guidance, direction. They don't know.
Pastor Mead, I think, because you're pointing out, the implication, of course, is the parents are not there. So the parental love and care is also part of it that's not there. And one of the things that my faith kind of breaks down the religious aspects is it basically boils down to two things, right? For Christians, love one another and love the Lord your God, right? Now, of course, you could get similar sentiments from other, I would say, legitimate religions, right? So that basic premise is not just limited to Christians, but you could see potentially maybe, because you said it again, I'll go back, the lack of care to the lower socioeconomic class. It's almost as though yes, we know these things, and yes, you know, for the most part, we're taught these things in schools and in Sunday school and what have you, but we don't necessarily see society practicing that on the various levels of society, of trying to show care and consideration from parents, or even from community leaders, political leaders, members of parliament, you know, even in some cases, police officers. There have been recent situations where you're not really seeing the care coming from that position of authority. Even lower ranks in society have a position of authority.
First, I want to commend you for this program, you know, because, I mean, this needs to be taught, and what you are doing here is very needed right now for our country, you know, for Trinidad and Tobago. My mother insists I be in Sunday school. I used to go in a car crying. She said, you had to go. And today I'm a pastor. You know, my mother insists every Sunday I had to go in that car and go to Sunday school. I went to National Youth Camp. I'm a camper. I learned 16 different trades in youth camp. You know, I learned skill. Today, these young people right now, they want money, they don't want to work. You see, and that's what the crime is. Everybody wants easy money without a skill. And so my hands, I can do things with my hands. I am a barber, shoemaker. I learn things to make money. But today, right now, people want to make money and don't want to learn. I'm a carpenter, I'm a mason, a plumber, steel bender. I learned these things at the age at $5 a day to learn the skill. So now I can use those skills to make money. The second of people today right now, they want easy money, and sometimes easy money is the only access to easy money is crime. But I am trying to teach my young people. What I did, right, and I know this might fly with everybody, right? I am online right now. For the past 9 years, God tell me, don't leave the church building and go online. So I am online. Every day I'm online. I am in the marketplace. I am trying to put the doctrine and the gospel online. And I don't want to be in the box no more, in the church no more. Because the people in the church is just limited. But online is where the demon is and where the education can be. I am being condemned for not being in the church box. But I'm doing more online because I have access to excess crowd. And I want to say all churches in the church should have a camera, a phone, and put it online. Go put your teaching online, because that is where the marketplace is. Because we cannot change the community in the church building. You see?
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
The old saying, I think it's more applicable now than ever before. Yeah. But I just like to point out, as much as you all are saying, well, we need divine intervention, we're looking for God, you all aren't just saying we just need a day of prayer and we pray the problem away. You know, we have to, you're pointing to what we could do with our own two hands, one, to make money, but then also with the problem, it's practical things that you're looking at. Yeah. Part of it is the lack of guidance, and religion affords part of that guidance that we traditionally had. But at the end of the day, do you think that there just seems to be something of an unwillingness to maybe properly treat with the problem? I think, you know, Pastor Armstrong, you mentioned that there's some things some discussions we don't necessarily want to face, like fathers not stepping up to be fathers, and that society doesn't want to have to necessarily face that. Because it might be a tall task to rectify it.
Yeah. Well, we are in enterprise. Everybody knows enterprise is a hotspot, so they call it a hotspot. So what as led by God, what we decided, we're going to reach the children. So we started Children's Church. And if you understand the society now, children calling the shots for parents. So we decided now, we're going to reach the children, and through the children, we're going to reach the parents. So we're treating them nice. And then again, the role of the church now has become bigger than we, according to Pastor Me, just what happens within the walls. You now have to look out for the well-being of these children, book-wise, sneakers-wise, to send them to school. There is the concern in the community there that once people hear the child from enterprise, they ain't too happy to put them in a school because of the they're stigmatized. And so now, we now have to be thinking of how could we get around that. I've had a situation where I had to go into school to represent a child, to get that child in school. That's how far it goes. So the role is not just staying on the pulpit, it's about going out into the community and really making a difference.
Well, we're going to have to take a break. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines, and we could also continue conversation for a little while. But let's take a break now. We'll open the phone lines. You could call in. Of course, this situation is multifaceted, and you could ask questions to the pastors. They'll be here when we come back. As well as we could talk about whatever else that I spoke about this morning. We could delve further into the Prime Minister's and Minister of National Security words, although I did say my course and I will deal with that tomorrow. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, the viewer, what you want to speak about. When we come back, we open the phone line. Stay tuned.
Yo, it's your girl Digicel, and I will be performing live for Fete Royal on QRC Grounds Saturday 27th of January, and I'll be singing Shake Up Your Body Girl with that addictive wine, cause you know what, we up in the party all night. Mwah. See you there, don't miss this one.
Baby, drive me mad, and then you hip on that, then you jump on that, cock it up for the boss.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
My name is Carl Media. I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. So now we officially open up the phone lines. The numbers are on your screen. Just remember, when you get on air, please turn down the volume or mute your television. Don't try to have the conversation through the TV, have the conversation through your phone. I'll just say that in advance, because normally we have some callers who might not understand and realize that the TV is on delay. But like I said, the phone number's up on your screen. You could call in and talk about anything that you want, but I do have the two pastors with me here to speak about crime and the values in society. And at the end of the day, they themselves, they see it on the ground. There's a lot of issues. Part of it is from the home, part of it is from education and schools, and it leads to the lack of development of our young people in a country where I think, and I say this all the time, gentlemen, as we wait for calls, we'll just continue discussion a little bit. We have seen individuals in TNT do work at a world-class level. We've had gold medalists in the Olympics. They have a lot of cities in first world countries with populations of our size or greater that has not necessarily had the same impact on the world stage as we've had, with regard in sports, in petrochemicals, and in some fields that we might not be aware of, like law and nation building, as Mr. Cross was in various parts in Africa and his whole story. And we have seen excellence on that level, but right now, I think a lot of people might not even consider us capable on that level.
One of the things I observe right now, what causes crime to to be loose is the minimum wage. I mean, the economy has fallen. The economy has fallen real bad. And $20 an hour, them guys, they want to work for that.
Yeah.
You know, people not seeing that point. Nobody ever want to work for $20 an hour no more, you know.
Well, we have a caller from San Fernando. Good morning, caller. You on there?
Hey, morning, Sean.
Morning.
Morning to the pastors. I'm going to say morning to Carl Mead.
Morning.
Sean, Carl Mead is a gentleman from San Fernando. I have known Carl many, many moons ago. Carl, you remember Cow and Noel Gale?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I am from around that time.
Okay, like 40 years ago.
Now, let me say this to what you're talking about, this topic. This is a very welcome topic this morning, as you know, with me, Sean. One of the issues that we have in, and a major issue, is not only the breakdown in family, but the breakdown in community. So let me give an example in San Fernando. If you drive around San Fernando on an evening, there are lots of recreational facilities in San Fernando, way more than 30 years ago. However, they are empty. There are no youths playing in the community. There is this lack of community involvement and community unity among the younger people, and I blame that on the generations before. And when I say the generations before, I am talking about, I'm speaking in general, Pastor Me generation, my generation, because what happened is we knew our grandparents, how they operated and how we operated in the past. However, something where the community has distanced itself, people started to go into silos, and as some people got a little more affluent, they pulled away, and so you no longer have that sense of each one teach one, and everybody pull one another up. And that has led to a serious disconnect, and of course, the breakdown, and we are where we are today. And I would just like to say that at this time, while we need that sense of community, again, what needs to happen is we need to put a halt to it. There needs to be a stopgap and say, okay, while we try to fix those things, some measure of enforcement has to come into play to stop it. And that's my contribution to this.
Well, one of the things I have to say again to go with the policing. Policing is very important, right? That's why in Randolph Borough's time, crime had to stay down. Because, I mean, he's coming for you. You know, once he knows you interfere in the community, he's coming for you. So the community had to back up. Right now, we need the proper administration, because there are people out there, they're heartless, you know. They kill you, they're heartless. They come to rob you, and you have no money, they still kill you. Yeah. You know, so these people, you're praying for them, and they're getting worse. I realize the more I pray, the more worse they get. You wonder, like, the prayer can't work. It's not that, you know. We need the governance in a way right now. Rather, do those time and thing. I mean, we need, I don't know, you need some kind of person.
Pastor Armstrong, if I'll just have to ask you to hold on, and you could respond after. We have a caller from Chagonas on the line. Good morning, caller. You on air? Hey, good day, Professor.
This is a crime. You're dealing with the cause. You're not dealing with the cause. You're dealing with the effect. The problem is law and order. It's a breakdown in law and order. In any society, you get order by enforcing your laws, which we do not do. You get your best laws by the people responsible for enforcing them, reviewing their position, and coming up with improvements. And this, as I told you, is annually put up in the annual report. Crowley blamed the Kabla 7 years ago for being 4 years behind. That is impossible to believe. But when I checked it was true. You run a country without reviewing the position. That is what you're getting. You have all these nonsense budgets going on. And unless you get back to the and review your position in order to identify where you're going wrong and addressing them, you are just spinning top in the mud. Any question, you or your guests?
No caller. I agree with you. I agree with you. And it's good to hear from you again. I was concerned. I hope you're in good health.
Those jokey-fied phones you have is the problem.
Okay, we will send another complaint to the telecommunications company, one of many that we have sent over the years. We have another caller from St. James. Good morning, caller. You on here?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning, Sean.
Morning.
I ain't called for a while, but I didn't know you had such an awesome voice that you could sing so good. And I want to commend you on that. You know, in the ads on for Christmas, a lot of people, I don't know if they realize it was your voice. You are amazing, and I took about 3 years before I was able to sing karaoke properly. When I now started, the voice was croaky, and you know all the things now. You had to really practice, and I'm singing about a wide range of songs now: country, western, rock, pop, spiritual, of course, and so on. But gentlemen, Mr. Mead, this is your friend from St. James Wayne. I used to work Stop. Since you had that fancy old model expensive car that you have, I don't know if you still have it, you know, but that's a nice old model car that you have there, that and thing. But the program is awesome, guys, and what I want to say is you have to look. You know, we have so much, we could get data so fast now, statistics and facts so fast, right? So we need to have in our youth centers programs for training young parents in assisting their children in having better lives. In other words, children are making children. This is scripture, gentlemen.
Yeah.
You all know that.
Yeah.
And this is why we have to look at what is needed. So the youth centers, they bill half bill, and the government because the opposition bill it. And, you know, they used to, I learn electrical, I learn cake making, I learn cookery and all these things. Men was in these things too. And Mr. Mead, as you say, I just do a little renovation home here, and I did the electrical in the walls. I did the ceiling, I did the tiles, I did the windows, I assisted casting the foundation and all these things. And I work with several large companies. God is the one who placed me there because I don't have much passes. But a working company I have been a supervisor for young men who have degrees that came into the company, and I do have a degree. You see? But what I want to say is we need to concentrate back the youth camps we had in Chagaramas. When young children get into the prison system, they would put them. And, you know, those were the tradesmen that built Trinidad today. As you see, Trinidad existing now, you know, apart from the foreign companies and so on. So this is what is needed, gentlemen. Let me stop pointing fingers. Let me stop, you know, right? Mr. Media make an important point there. Sunday school is a thing a lot of churches don't have anymore. I grew up in Sunday school. Sunday school had me straight. Apart from the schooling, people say schooling under a normal mind, not angry, is something probably I had to teach the people of today, because how come a duncy man like me know that? That when I schooling my child, I will not do it in anger, and I will explain to you.
Why?
3 times I've spoken to you, you peel the stone, you know, the 4th time you break the glass. I'm giving you a little sting on your calves or on your hand. And I'll let you know why I scold you. And you know, after 2-3 times, you know, you don't have that issue again. But total people. Let me tell you something. There is schooling taking a stinging. If you take a switch and sting a child in the calves or the hand for doing wrong, is that brutality? Could that cause any damage? A very thin strap or a thin cookie that sting a child, and what make them cry? The sting. You didn't cuff them in the back, right? A parent, a child cussing in front of a public place, and if you see the mother to stop, she cuffing the child in the back. No, you wasn't doing your duty at home. Anyway, young parents need help. We need the private and the government sector needs to get together and put place. I have to go. Going.
Sorry,
This is important.
Well, we have another caller waiting, so thank you, caller. I'm sorry we had to cut you, but we have Digger Martin on the line. Good morning, caller. You on here?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm listening to your last caller just now, and he's saying, what? Schooling and brutalizing doesn't cause damage? Really, sir? You can't be serious. I hear people talk a lot about, I get licks when I was small and it didn't do me nothing. Psychologically, it damages you. But we have this concept, and I think the generation now, the peer, say, they don't discipline. You know what they do? They beat and they don't discipline. Right? Now, I just pick up that from the last caller, but I want to talk about the caller who talk about the law. Law enforcement, you see right now, the police not doing their job properly at all. If you have a station in your neighborhood and you are telling me after New Year's gone, today's the 22nd, and you telling me people sending off fireworks still, and when people call West End, I refuse to call West End. Because I know years gone by, they keep saying, we can't do nothing. A neighbor tell me she called. And what the officer said, I said, nah, don't believe that. I called personally. And you know what the female officer told me? Ma'am, there's nothing we can do. I said, what? She said, yes. Somebody WhatsApp me and send the EMA's number. They are the people to handle it. I called EMA, and EMA told me no. The lady told me, the police have what she call it, she called this nuisance act. She said, the Firearm Nuisance Act. She said they could deal with that. She said, that officer could tell you that. I said, well, that is what she said. So there's what we have. Officers in station, and they're not enforcing laws. So people will continue, and I told my neighbors, I say, you prepare yourselves. That fireworks is going right down until Ash Wednesday. Because if a police could say, there's nothing you could do, and you tell me there's an act, and you saying you can't do nothing, well, we're in a mess. You'll have a blessed day.
Thank you. Well, Pastor Armstrong, I mean, I know you were waiting to respond since about 3 calls ago. I don't know if you...
That's okay. The first caller talked about the breakdown in communities.
Yes.
Again, it's just, again, the community is basically an outflow. It's just the outflow from the family.
Yes.
So it's the family, the community. And seriously, what we are seeing is just the lack of discipline, personal discipline.
Right.
And so nobody is interested in being community. Everybody is about,
themselves.
If you've been about in the American type setting, you live next door and nobody don't care who is the person who lives next door. I grew up in a setting where if my father would cut a bunch of figs, it's like he's sending us to go take this hand for the neighbor next door. And so there was this neighborly community type spirit. That is no longer, that's non-existent. So the society is now being impacted by, again, our own selfishness. Nobody cares, nobody's concerned. And then there are some crazy parents who would tell you, have nothing to do with my children, that sort of thing. So it's selfishness.
Well, we have to pause on that. We are seeing James on the line again, I think. Good morning, caller.
Yes. St. James again. I call back because maybe, so much things in my mind, I didn't put myself over properly. as I say, the parents need help, and this is what we had to concentrate on, having people to train young parents to come to the community centers throughout Trinidad and Tobago. It will be a great assistance. And what I was saying just now is not good to school a child in anger.
Right.
So if it is that 4 time I tell the boy, don't pelt and he break the glass, I will give you a little switch and so. But I wanted to say quickly that my daughter many years ago was falling back in school at Form 4 because we always monitor everything about her. And when I reached into the school, she said, Daddy, what are you doing here? So I come to the teacher, and the teacher explained to me she's been influenced and so on. That's why her grades dropped by other students given trouble and so on. So when she came home in a nutshell, I told the teacher, if she give trouble again, send her with a letter and tell her don't come back to school until the parents is coming out. I saying that about my daughter or my son, but it's, in this case it's my daughter. However, in a nutshell, I told her, if you want to continue like this, because you're big now, and I have a friend with a gas station and a mechanic shop, I'll help you to get a job there if you don't do well in school later on. And when you see your friends passing where they can, they have the nice house and things, don't envy them because they work hard for what they want. So we need to be firm with our children, but we need to help the young parents and don't be school children in anger. A little switch now and then would not hurt anybody. The Bible talk about sparing the rod and so on, but we bigger than God. We leave that part out. So gentlemen, help the parents, especially the young ones, because so much of we sons out there breed so many daughters out there, and our children out there fatherless. The government and the business sector and the private sector come together to help all these fatherless children. Gentlemen, have a good day.
Thank you, caller. I mean, yes, don't school in anger, don't punish in anger. Try to do it constructively. Now, we could debate with regards to how much physical punishment is or is not.
Today, the IQ of children is so advanced. Communication is very important.
Yeah.
You know, you can put a child and sit down and talk. You see, if you use the right words, they get their attention. Schooling is not possible if you know, because the right teaching of a child can change the whole concept.
And that and all is a form of guidance. When you say, Pastor Armstrong, it's not just about don't do that again, but why?
Right. And you see, it's about creating the environment that would make this child feel wholesome.
Yeah.
Because, like I was saying before off air, is that when you look at these school violence now, you're seeing rage, you're seeing anger. Somebody's on?
Yeah, we have Claxton Bay on the line. Good morning, caller. Caller?
Hello, good morning, Sean. Morning. I'm on to
morning.
Fisherman here.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I will take on the program. Good program, though. You know, what I want to say, like, when you're working as a normal citizen, a father, you work. Someone can put a gun on you and take your pay, which you have to buy things for your children to eat. And they telling you them children have to eat. What are they feeding their children? When you take that pay of yours and buy something for their children to eat, what are they feeding their children? They're feeding them poison. So parenting have a lot to do with children. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I am, yeah.
Yeah, that's my take on the morning. But good program, though. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fisherman. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the other thing, right? We have children, raising children. My co-host points to that all the time, and I can't disagree with that at all. I agree with that fully. And then also, now, I guess, because I think both of you all kind of imply the fact of, okay, we might have some deficiencies moving forward and deficiencies in parenting, but now we have to consider the fact that we might have more and more criminals who are also parents now. So the things we're lamenting now could actually get worse as time goes on.
Because it's easy money. You see, they're going after easy money. And they have no skill, no profession, they're not entrepreneurs. So they want the quick dollar. And this is what happened in our society right now, you know. All these killing and gang and everything is after money, you know. because they are tradeless. They have no skill, no profession, they have no attitude. And again, the food they eating too, like the food had them kind of crazy too as well. So we have to understand it's a whole different society breakdown. And we have to, the churches need now to do their best, you know. Like for instance, I had one program I brought to the Ministry of Education, a church adopt a school, right? I brought it to the ministry, I went and sit down with them there. Every community, the church, should adopt a school and be in the school and have the church inside. The education man tell me, say, well, if I do it for you, I'll do it for the Muslim, I'll do it for the Hindu, I'll do it for the Catholic, and everybody want to come and do it. I say, well, give it a chance, because the church need to be in the school, you know, and they turn my program down, and I walk away.
Which is funny, because schools under various religious institutions tend to be doing better. Yeah. And it's not as though they're fully funded by the government, they're government assisted. So they are finding the resources, they are putting things in place to educate their students, you know, and with regards to secondary schools, that's where a lot of the students, the high-performing students want to go, right? So is it something that we get some sense of community in these schools, whether it's Hindu schools, Catholic schools, or any other schools that has that kind of support, and we see, you know, it might be limited, but we still see benefits?
There's definitely a role for the school. The school has always been an institution of order. That's why you have a uniform.
Not just learning, but also
order. So it was supposed to be order from home. When I put my child in the school, I expect order to continue. In my primary school days, it was like, make sure your hair comb, your nails. But now I see everybody going to school.
The hair pink.
Yeah, what time they feel like. And then there is no checking up on to see their uniform. And everybody wants now to explore the system and push to see what they could get away with. And then, so we have all those crazy issues. The school is an institution it's a disciplinary place.
Now,
also a place of learning.
I wanna close with this question. This might be not as controversial to the public, but this is the big question now, because you said people are looking to exploit more and more. And I feel part of the reason why is when you see potentially, right, because legally I have no evidence of this, but potentially exploitation of the systems by the high and mighty, whether it is the big businessmen or the political leadership, the elected officials, right? And you see the guys in charge and you say, well, if they're doing all these big things, why am I struggling with the straight and narrow? They get ahead, taking advantage of the system. I should try too. And the example trickles down all the way down through members of the community into the children, etc., etc. And this is what we get. Do you think that's fair that our leadership in the various avenues are setting bad examples?
Of course. And that's serious. I remember for a while we had Parliament being a crazy house. And these were members of Parliament representing communities. And so that kind of behavior then filters down. Leadership, it's about being role models, setting the examples. But that is not what happens. So obviously, people feel, well, once you're big, you could get away with anything. And so the young man decides, well, I could get away with my stuff too. So it's about coming back to a point where we understand, let us become role models again. Lead by example.
Once there is no God in one life, there will always be chaos. God is the solution for all avenues. That's my whole concept. Once a person don't fear God or respect God, we will always have a breakdown society. Yeah. And the only solution for our nation, our parliament, our politicians, our teachers, our pastors is God. Yeah. If there is no God, there is always going to be breakdown. And my assignment here is to try to get people heavenly ready. I will bring God in everything I do. If I go in the bank, I go in the school, I go in the shop, I go in the taxi, it's God in the morning, God, 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 God. Once there is no God, there is devil. Once there is no God, there is evil. God is the master plan for everything. And that's why we need to teach the child the way of the Lord. So when the child grows old, they wouldn't depart from it. I grew up a Catholic, come from an Anglican, understand Baptist, and now I'm a child of God. You understand? So I grew up all around God. So there is no way I can escape God. And the solution for this country, this nation, is God. Not just Jesus, God.
Pastor Armstrong,
let me also make a call. We at SACA, which is a movement launched last year, Diwali, and we are asking pastors to come together. As much as there's a cultural part of the society, there is the political part of the society, there's also the spiritual part of the society. Right. And we are saying if the pastors could come together, we could then together, because one man doesn't have all the answers. Right. If we could come together, we could then go to the government and present proposals to say, this is the way forward. From a spiritual perspective, this is where we stand. We want to see that God is restored in the heart of the society. Because what is up, well, like Pastor Mead said, what is missing is the absence of a relationship with God. It's just about, everybody is about greed, corruption, greed, money. Hey, there is God, a God factor.
Well, gentlemen, we have to close there. I'd like to thank you for coming on and having this discussion with me. And folks, I'll just close with this. I know that in 2024, religion is for whatever reason that you might consider a controversial topic. But need I remind you that at least with our politicians, they open and close all of their ceremonies with various inter-service prayers. So they, to some extent, believe it, or they're paying lip service to it. Yeah. So to some level now, I think perhaps if they think it's important and you want to support them, I'm just saying, there's something about having faith and something to believe in to guide you and to help you define your purpose in whatever means that your faith does, that the lack of that in the individuals in society, I think, helps weaken the foundation then of the entire society. And hopefully, I will always encourage people to find something to believe in, something positive. Yes. But with that, folks, have a good day. As my co-host always says, we will see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
God bless.